Hello everyone, welcome to the school, hope you're all well. We're going to take you on a quick tour now around the school so you can see what school is currently looking like for when you come back over these next few weeks. It's very, very different, so we wanted to make sure you're aware of what you're coming into and have your expectations at the right level. So this is the entrance to the school and this is where you will go down in order to go for registration. We're going to register outside today in the car park area, we won't be registering inside, and we're going to show you that in a minute. As you can see on the pathway here, there's a series of lines, which is where you'd be socially distancing as you walk down. So these lines, you must make sure you're not closer to anybody, 2 metres gap from everybody as you walk down.
Hi everyone, it's Mr Bell here. So I wanted to quickly show you what it's going to look like at the front here when you register. So once you've registered down at the front, you're going to come up to this area of the car park. And it's really important to point out that the car park will actually be closed. So parents, you won't be able to park on the school site. You'll need to drop your son or daughter off in the local area. Students, you'll line up in groups of different groups of 10. So you'll be told when you arrive which group to line up in, 1 to 10, and you'll need to line up in a socially distanced manner. What's really important at this point is that if you've got a blazer or if you've got a coat, if it's a warm day, then it's really important that your blazer and your coat are put away in your school bag so that when you come onto the school site, you've just got your shirt or blouse on. I also want to remind you that for the next few weeks, no ties are required in school, so you don't need to bring your tie in every day. These regulations are in place to take on board the latest hygiene advice that we've received, so that you're able to come to school as much as possible in clean clothing every day.
As you come onto the school site, you'll notice that there's lots of new signage. We're putting this signage in place so that you're aware of the current guidelines from the government in terms of social distancing and hygiene. You can see here, this is what they look like. So this one refers to social distancing, and this one over here refers to deliveries on the school site. But there's many, many around the school which you need to be aware of and read. So when you see a sign like this, pay attention, stay alert, as the government say, and read the sign to see what the information is.
Okay, so when you come through the school gate, you'll be taken through by a member of staff and you'll be brought through. And if you look down on the floor below me here, you can see that the social distancing guidelines remain in place. On a Monday, we think it's really important on your first day back at school that we spend some time with you rebuilding that relationship. After all, you've been away from the school site since March the 20th. So on the Monday, we'll take you round to the left and we'll walk around the outside of the school site and we'll go to the assembly hall. Now your assembly is going to be in the sports hall on a Monday. We'll congregate there again socially distanced. In a second we'll show you what it looks like. On a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday we'll actually go round to the right here into the main reception area of the school where you'll be taken straight to your lessons.
So as you come along the school path, the first thing you'll see that's different in front of the school is these sanitizer units. So if you just come with me, I'll show you how they work. So if you notice down the bottom, obviously it says lots of information, just a reminders for you of what you should be doing. It's really important that you wash your hands and sanitise your hands as often as you can in school. We're going to have these around to encourage you to do that. So when you get to the sanitizer, you use it, come to the end one, press it once, wash your hands, obviously you'll know how to do this, and then go through it into the school building. Okay? And just to remind you some of the things, obviously these are the government advice down here. Catch it, bin it, kill it is obviously your terminology if you're sneezing, and then some other situations where you should wash your hands with soap and water or use the sanitisers as you're around the school site. Thank you, let's go inside.
Okay, so one of the things we said we felt was really important is when you come back on that first Monday, we want to get you all together as a cohort to make sure that you're safe and you're well, and to go through some really, really important messages. It's really important that I reassure you at this point, when you come back in, we will be in very, very small groups. No more than 40 students will be in the sports hall at any one point, and we will all be socially distanced for that first assembly. Behind me, you can see what the sports hall looks like. It's going to be a very, very different experience for you coming into assembly. You'll sit at a seat and you'll stay there throughout the whole of the assembly, and our entry and our exit will also be socially distanced so that we're following on the latest guidelines. The second group, when they come in, after the first group have had their assembly, will then sit at a different set of chairs so that we're able to clean the equipment and the chairs on a regular basis. The assembly itself will cover the key messages regarding the time away from school that you've had, but also go through the structure of the days and some of the expectations that we've got of you when you're in school. But most importantly of all, it's to reconnect you back with us, the teaching staff at the school, to make sure you're safe and to make sure that you're happy and well being back in the school environment.
Okay, so once you've finished your assembly, or if you're registering out in the car park on a different day to Monday, you'll come straight here. You'll get taken here by your class teacher who will supervise you into the room. And you can see this is the setup of the classroom. Very different from what you're used to. All the desks and chairs are 2 metres apart to conform with social distancing measures from the government. And when you're in here, you'll receive a lesson from your teacher. Again, it'll be quite a different feel. There'll be no group work. It'll just be all individual work. The teacher will teach from the front. They won't have capacity to move around the class that much due to all the social distancing measures. And as a reminder, what we do on Google Classrooms, that still remains, and that will remain over these next few weeks as our main education provision, and you'll get some face-to-face teaching in the classroom to supplement that.
Okay, so one of the things that's going to be really important is talking about lesson changeover. And actually, when you transition between lessons and transition between break and lunchtime, you're going to find that it's a very, very different experience. So, for example, when your lesson ends, you'll be escorted out of your lessons by your teacher, and there'll be a strict one-way system in operation. If I walk you down the corridor, you can see on the floor here, again, we've got our social distancing guidelines to remember to stay apart. And as you walk down the corridor, there'll be a very, very strict one-way system. Behind the camera here on the doors, you can see the new signage, making it clear that this is an exit only and a one-way system. And so the other entrance will be the entrance point. Also, just to talk a little bit about break time and lunchtime, you'll be taken down to a set area which we'll show you shortly by your teachers. And then you'll be supervised in a social distance capacity during break time and lunchtime. It's going to be a very, very different experience for you. One of the questions I'm sure a lot of you have got is around toilets. Obviously, it's very, very important to us that we maintain strict social distancing at all times. So again, we'll make sure that toilet facilities are, of course, available, but it will pretty much be one student in, one student out throughout the course of the day. And we'll have staff based outside the toilets on a duty rater to ensure your safety at all times.
Right, we're now in Coburn Court, which is where you will come for your break lunchtime. We're not going to have two separate break and lunch times, it's going to be combined into one. So there'll be 1.5 hour break in the middle of the day, and this is where it'll be. And it'll be very different to what you're used to, I'm afraid. There can be no playing of any games like table tennis, like basketball, football. You'll be taken to an allocated area, and you'll sit down or stand at that area, and you'll be socially distanced apart, and you'll stay in the groups that you're being taught in for period 1, for the first period. So you'll sit down in that area. It'll be one per area, 2 metres apart, and you'll have your break, and then you'll be taken back up. And this is just examples of the seating that will be used. There'll also be benches out here as well. And we'll go from there. And then once you finish your break after half an hour, you'll be taken by your teacher who will supervise you for that whole half hour, and they'll take you then to your next lesson.
Okay, one of the things that it's really important that you understand is the situation regarding PPE, or personal protective equipment. It may be that you see some members of staff in school walking around with a face mask on, and that's their own personal decision. It's really important that you understand face masks are ultimately there to protect you. Some staff may choose to wear them, and it's important that you recognise that when you walk around the school site, you may see some colleagues wearing them. Similarly, you may see some colleagues wearing gloves. And again, it's nothing to be alarmed about. It's a personal decision that members of staff will take. Staff obviously will receive training on how to put them on and how to take them off. And it's really important that I reiterate that when you come onto the school site, you won't be able to wear a mask or a pair of gloves. And that's really, really important, because to wear these in a hygienic way, to conform to WHO regulations, you actually need to have training on how to put on PPE and how to take it off. And that's actually because once you actually take off a face mask or actually take off a pair of gloves, it's actually clinical waste. And as you can see here, around the school site, we'll have a number of clinical waste bins, because if any cleaners or members of staff or anyone in the community wears a face mask or a pair of gloves, they actually have to dispose of it as clinical waste. It then has to be stored for a certain period of time before it's put out for the refuse collection. So again, just to reiterate, You obviously, if you're coming on public transport, do need to wear a face mask, as that's now government guidelines. And similarly, if you choose to wear that, that's your decision. But when you get to school, that will need to be taken off and you won't be able to wear it around the school site.
So the final thing I need to talk to you about is the Cooper's Coburn Charter. We've updated some of our behaviour guidelines, taking into account social distancing and hygiene. So it's really important that you read the pack that's going to be sent through to you, because lots of those behaviour points that the school and the rules that the school have made have been updated accordingly. And we are going to really strictly monitor that. When you're on school site, you must obey the social distancing rules. You must obey the hygiene rules, because it's for all of our health. And I know you guys are a fantastic year group, both year groups. You will do that, and you will do us very proud with that. So please do read that, and it's a real importance that you follow those guidelines really closely. And then finally, for me, just to finish, we are really, really looking forward to seeing you again. We can't wait to have you back with us, obviously in a very limited capacity at the moment, as you've seen from this video, but we're really looking forward to connecting with you again and bringing you back into the Cooper's Coburn family where you all belong.
Okay, so the last thing for me is just a little bit of information for you and for your parents. As you'll appreciate, planning the return of students after such a long period away from school has been a real challenge for us, and I wanted to thank all the teachers and everyone in our school community for doing such a fantastic job of work, getting the site ready and getting us fit to go for next week for your return. One thing I must reiterate is just the importance of the survey that we've included in this pack. It's really, really important that your parent or carer replies to the survey and informs us whether or not you're going to be coming back to school for the week allocated. And it's really important that you understand that this is a personal decision for you and your family. And we completely respect if you feel for any reason that you're unable to come back to school. It's obviously going to look very different, it's going to feel very different, and it's important that you feel it's comfortable for you to come back. Secondly, if you have any health concerns, personally, Mrs. Carroll has sent out some information about vulnerability, and it's really, really important that you read that. Also, if anyone in your family is shielding, if anyone has a serious illness, again, it's important that you think about the government guidelines and take some time to reflect. But either way, we need to know whether to expect you back into school. So you'll see that there's a short survey that you need to complete. A parent or carer needs to indicate either yes, you are coming back, or no, you won't be coming back to school until September. So if you could please complete that as soon as possible. It just remains for me to reiterate what Mr Duncan said. Obviously, we all come into this profession as teachers to work with young people day in, day out. And it's been such a sad period of time these last 3 months. We haven't been able to support you at what is such a critical time for you in your education. We've missed you a huge amount, and we're really looking forward to having you back. And on behalf of myself and all the colleagues at the school, and particularly Mr Duncan, who forgot to say this, love us brethren.
Love us brethren.